Like that's up and running. If I can go ahead and give the meeting intro.
Sure, go ahead.
The format of this meeting consists of Planning Commission members, applicants, the public, and city staff attending a live online Zoom meeting, and the public viewing the meeting on the city's YouTube channel. For those attending on the Zoom meeting, please only speak when the chair indicates it's time for you to do so. In addition, as usual, prior to addressing the commission, please state your name, address, and affirm that you will tell the truth. Public viewers on YouTube have the ability to type in comments with the Google account. If you enter in a comment on YouTube, please first indicate your name and address. Comments can be entered at any time related to the commission when the chair indicates it's time to do so.
Andrew, your sound is going in and out.
Okay. Sorry about that. Getting some feedback there. I guess I'll pick up. Public viewers on YouTube have the ability to type in comments with a Google account. If you enter in a comment on YouTube, please first indicate your name and address. Comments can be entered at any time, but will be relayed to the commission when the chair indicates it's time to do so. Please also note multiple comments can be entered, but each comment is limited to 200 characters. If you're having difficulties commenting, comments can be emailed to me at a.dutton, that's A-D-U-T-T-O-N, at worcesteroh.com. Finally, please also be aware there's an approximate 15-second delay between the Zoom meeting and the live stream on YouTube. That's all I have for now, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Armbruster to begin the meeting.
Thank you, Andrew. This is the regular scheduled April 2021 meeting of the City of Worcester Planning Commission. This is a volunteer commission of Worcester citizens establishing to hear planning matters as specified in the City of Worcester Planning and Zoning Code. My name is Chuck Armbruster, and I'm the chair of the Planning Commission. Because these hearings are a matter of legal record, this meeting is recorded. We ask that if and when you speak loudly and clearly. We also ask that prior to the speaking, each speaker gives their name and address and affirms to tell the truth. The applications to be considered tonight are applications PC 2112, PC 2113, PC 2107, and PC 2104. Following tonight's meeting, the applicant in each case will receive notification of the commission's decision regarding their application. With that, we'll call the meeting to order. First task on the agenda is the roll call. So if you'll confirm your presence, please. Kyle Adams.
I'm here.
Cherie Bronson.
Here.
Grant Mason.
Here.
Mike Steiner.
Here.
Mark Weaver.
Here.
And myself. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the March 4th, 2020 meeting minutes. Are there any errors or omissions, please?
Mr. Chairman, this is Mike Steiner. I move to approve the minutes as written.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And that was Kyle, correct?
Yes.
Okay, very good. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The first application, as you can see on the agenda, is PC 2112. John Long, final development plan approval for the manufacturing building and an outdoor storage at 1109 Pittsburgh Avenue in an I-1 office limited industrial zoning district. Is there an applicant representative present to outline the application, please?
Yes, John Long. Business address 3477 Commerce Parkway, Worcester. I affirm to tell the truth. I'm on the meeting tonight along with my client's attorney, Douglas Druschel. Sorry, Doug, didn't mean to butcher your name there. And I believe Jason Miller from the owner is present as well. Would you like me to present, or are you going to have staff go first?
If you want to just provide an overview, we have obviously the documents that
Absolutely.
that Andrew sent out. So anything from your perspective you'd like to add, please.
Sure. Basically, what we're looking at here is an additional about 13,000 square foot building to the rear of the property. The property is currently functioning as EPAC. They are a manufacturer of trailers and steel containers of various flavors and sizes, from small dumpsters to roll-offs to full-blown semi trailers. This building in question here is going to be used for manufacturing of some of their smaller units, to free up some floor space in their main plant. Kind of a unique property in that it has frontage on what could be considered 3 streets, 2 improved, one unimproved. Fronts on Pittsburgh Avenue, Henry Street, traverses the property just south of our proposed portion. Their property continues on south down across the undeveloped portion of Friedlander and abuts up to Gross Park. Property that is in question here is currently wooded. There's a very steep hill to the east and a very steep hill to the south. And when I say a very steep hill to the east, I think we're about 50 feet of elevation change between the location of where our building is and the Goodwill facility to the east, down on Industrial. And looks like Andrew's pulling up some pictures to show the steepness of the hill, and that picture truly doesn't even do it justice. So it's kind of a unique property. We're intending to keep a majority of the landscaping from the up to the crest of the hill, as and somewhat beyond, as we'll be outlining through our variance request at next month's BZA meeting. Yeah, I won't take up too much of your time here because I think the staff's report pretty adequately covers what we're wanting to do. We do have stormwater management on the facility. We are requesting a gravel surface for the storage of their finished containers, as well as the gravel drive and parking to the west of the building. We will be going for a variance on that. There are some various landscaping variants that they'll be requesting as well, and a couple items we'll be working with with Andrew. As far as the review criteria, not really going to buzz through a whole lot of these, but this is consistent with the rest of the use of the property. They are just out of room in their current facility and they need to expand. It is a permitted use in the district. And that pretty much covers what I will present. If you have any questions, like I said, the owner is on the call as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, John. Planning Commission members, any questions for John, please?
Zoom, thanks.
Hearing none. Andrew, anything else from your perspective?
I could just maybe respond a little bit to the staff report. There's clearly a few variances that are needed regarding the outdoor storage, the gravel, and the interior parking. The applicant's aware of that. There is landscaping required between the building and the street. And as you can see from those pictures and the proposal, it's a little bit difficult to tell what's going to remain, how high that bank's going to be. So that's going to be something we're going to have to work on with the applicant to see if those variances are even necessary. So the idea was to go out maybe next week or so to figure out what variants are necessary of the frontage landscaping and the street trees.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, could you ask that the folks that are on the call please mute their microphones?
Okay,
So that-
Andrew, can you control that?
Yeah, if everyone could, if you're not in the discussion, if you could mute your there's 30 probably people with unmuted. So if you're not muted and you're not in the discussion, can you please mute yourself? I think it's a little bit more difficult if I have to go through all these.
Okay. Any other discussion? Planning Commission members, please. If not, may I have a motion?
Chair, I'll make a motion to approve application PC-21-12 John Long, final development plan approval for a manufacturing building and an outdoor storage at 1109 Pittsburgh Avenue in an I-1 Office Limited Industrial Zoning District.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, thank you.
Mike.
Would that include the staff recommendations?
You want me to add that to there?
Yeah, if possible.
Approved with the staff recommendations.
Okay, so you're amending your proposal to include the 2 recommendations. I assume, Mike, you also agree?
Yes, I second that amended motion.
Okay. Further discussion, please. If not, we'll go down the line. Kyle Adams,
Yes.
Sheree Bronson,
Yes.
Grant Mason,
Yes.
Mike Steiner,
Yes,
Mark Weaver,
Yes.
and I agree as well. So it passes 6-6. Very good.
Thank you all.
Thank you. The next item is PC 2113. Jacob Holderman requesting final development plan approval for a warehouse on properties located on the north side of Daisy Way and west of North Gyres Chapel Road with parcel numbers 51-00137.000 and 53-01011.000 in an I-2 general industrial zoning district. Is the applicant representative present to outline the application, please?
Yes, I am.
Okay, any overview you'd like to share with the commission?
Yeah, of course. I think, if I want to jog everyone's memory, we were here on the commission about a month ago discussing this project. I think we withdrew our application at the beginning based on being denied a variance we were requesting on the prior property that we were looking at. I can happily report we actually just got out of the BZA and were approved the variance required for the outdoor storage area on this newly proposed site. Just to give a little bit more background and high level overview, looking to build 198,000 square foot warehouse distribution center. We've been working with the city, Jonathan, Roger, on the Worcester Innovation site. We're really excited about it. Happy to answer any questions. We think it's going to be a great project for the community, bringing in, solid amount of jobs, and we're happy to, execute the vision on this land that the city purchased.
Okay, thank you, Jacob. Planning Commission members, any questions for Jacob, please? Andrew, any other comments from your office?
I have no further comment.
Okay. So again, open to discussion. If not, we could have a motion, please.
Chuck, I'll make a motion that we approve the final development plan for a warehouse on properties located on the north side of Daisy Way and west North Gyres Chapel Road with parcel numbers 51-00137.000 and 53-01011.000 in a I-2 general industrial zoning district and subject to the recommendations as presented by the Planning Commission staff.
All right, thank you, Mike. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Grant. Starting at the top of the list again, Kyle,
Yes.
Sheree,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes,
Mark,
Yes.
and I also agree. So that motion passes 6-6. The next application, as you can see, is PC 2107. It reads Thomas Winkart requesting an approval recommendation from the Planning Commission to City Council for a zoning map amendment to change the zoning of 4677 Melrose Drive with parcel number 71-00250.000 and 71-00251.000 from R1 suburban single family residential to PD planned development. Andrew, would you like to overview what a planned development community is, since it's a relatively rare thing in Worcester, please?
Yes, thank you. I'd just like to go over kind of briefly a little bit of the history and some plan development kind of facts and differences in the process here. So in 2019, preliminary subdivision plat was submitted for the property for a 62-unit detached single-family development that was approved by the Planning Commission, but ultimately not constructed. In January of this year, the current applicant submitted a rezoning from R1 to R3. This was not recommended for approval by the Planning Commission. After that meeting, the applicant chose to withdraw the application and not continue on to City Council. After that meeting, the applicant approached staff with the development containing a mix of both single-family detached homes and single-family attached homes. This is a unique mix that's not permitted in any standard zoning district. Therefore, staff recommended that the applicant seek a zoning of planned development. So a typical zoning considers only the change of the zoning map. It's literally just changing that map from one zoning to another. Any plans or other items are completely informational. If it's approved, the development must follow the standards of that basic zoning district. So in the previous instance, it would need to follow the R3 standards. Where a planned development differs, Planning Commission and City Council are considering the zoning. They're also considering a preliminary development plan and a development text. These are being reviewed for approval. They're not informational. This requires far more information than a typical rezoning from the applicant, and it also requires considerably more initial planning and cost. Exceptions to zoning district standards are expected and are really the basis of a planned development. You wouldn't have a planned development without these exceptions. And if it's approved, the planned development and the planned development must follow the submitted preliminary development plan and text with a follow-up final development plan approval, which is reviewed by the Planning Commission. I've also been asked some questions about where we have these planned developments in the city. There are currently 4. Tartan Ridge is located on the west side of Akron Road, south of Bendon Drive, but on the opposite side of the road. It's a detached single-family subdivision that's a gated community with a private drive, and it's surrounded by R1 zoning. Miller Lakes is off of Burbank Road, north of the intersection with Cleveland, that kind of odd 4-way intersection. It includes detached single-family homes and multifamily residential. It is also surrounded by R1. Townsview Place is off of Robinson Road. That's between Seacrest and 30 on the south side of town. It has attached single-family residential and is adjacent to R2, which is single-family residential, and CF, which is community facilities. And the final one is Yorkshire Estates. It's on Cleveland Road, just north of Highland on the west side of Cleveland Road. It also has attached single family and is also surrounded by R1. So we do have a few in the city. The Tartan Ridge was the last one, which is about 10 years ago in 2010. So it's kind of a brief overview of the history of this and what a planned development means for this board and city council. And I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has about the process or the application.
Okay, anything for Andrew, please? Hearing none, is the applicant representative present to outline the application, please?
I am. Patrick Mackey, Lemon Development, 8230 Pittsburgh Ave, Northwest, North Canton, Ohio, 44720. And I affirm to tell the truth.
You have the floor.
I appreciate it. So as Mr. Armbruster indicated, we are appearing today due to our request for an approval recommendation from the Planning Commission to City Council for a zoning map amendment. The subject parcels, which you see on the screen, consist of 21.87 acres and are currently zoned R1. At the request of the city, following our previous submission, we are resubmitting for a zoning change to a planned development. The submitted site plan conforms to the requirements of the PD. It offers some solutions to the concerns that were previously raised including lowering the density, including single-family detached homes and increasing setbacks. Additionally, the development contributes towards the goal laid out in Worcester's 2015 master plan of adding up to 240 multi-family units with varying designs, rates, and amenities. Our concept plan that you see up there on the screen has a total unit count of 141. Unit types will consist of duplex villas, 4 and 8 unit single-story apartments, 3-unit, 3-story townhomes, single-family detached homes, and community clubhouse. Aside from the 8-unit apartments, all units will have attached garages. These are concepts and have been finalized. They have not been finalized. Specifically, the townhomes, we included them in the development concepts, but if you see on the layout there, they're not on the site plan. The market conditions will influence our final design. Estimated rents for these units are going to range between $1,050 to $2,000 per month. Brookwood Management, which is our sister company, will serve as the property manager. Brookwood currently manages nearly 1,500 units. Stormwater will be retained on the property. We will follow the Ohio EPA and City of Worcester's design requirements. Regarding the sewer, we've already discussed this with the city and we'll be participating in an upgrade to the pump station. A traffic study was completed in March of 2021, and it concluded that the level of service pre-development will be maintained upon the completion of the development. No changes to the roadway network were recommended at the time, and all roads within the community will be private. The connection to Mel Lane on the east of the property line is designated for emergency use only. Access will be controlled by safety forces. The existing storage building will be available to community residents for extra storage. We estimate the costs for the apartments and the homes are going to range between $175,000 to $250,000. Again, thank you all for your time this evening, and look forward to answering any questions you have about the plan.
Okay, commission members, any questions that you may have, please? But this is Chuck. I have a few. Let's start with this. And then again, as other members have questions, we can cover those as well. So you mentioned that there are a variety of structures in this property, 23 single family detached. And I think on the drawing, that's number 17 through 39. So understand where those are at. You also have some 8-unit and 4-unit apartment buildings. So understand those generally in the lower left-hand corner. My question is around the townhouses. Are those the same thing as villas? And if so, I assume those are, as an example, 1 through 18 on your drawing. Is that correct?
No, the townhomes we actually don't have on the site plan laid out. We included it in the concepts, which you saw Andrew pull up there. On the site plan that you see in front of you, as you mentioned, it has the single family homes, as the 8-unit homes, and then it shows the duplex and the 4-unit single story villas. Those will be villas.
Okay. So again, my interpretation of what I'm seeing here is that the 23 single family detached structures, those will have land and those will be sold. That's just like a regular house. So you have a homeowner occupying those facilities, correct?
They're for rent. Everything on this plan is for rent as it currently stands. We haven't made final decisions on how to move forward, but as we put it together, everything was for rent. Okay, all right. Thanks for clarifying that. The other clarification I'd like to make is you mentioned it in your overview, and it's sprinkled in some of the documents as well, that you reserve the right to make some changes. Again, no one can see around corners, so I don't want to hold you to that. But what I do want to make sure is that if you do decide to make changes due to market conditions, we don't have a more dense population on the property. Do you foresee that, or could you pledge that that won't happen? I don't know, but I know that any and all changes to the plan, layout, units, et cetera, have to be approved by the city. So we wouldn't do anything without approval.
Okay. So let's say that we are successful this evening. I mean, as far as getting this approved and going through city and so forth, what's the general timing? Because again, you talk about phases, but I didn't see any timeline relative to the phases. So give me a feel of how you see things going if things go your way.
Well, we still have to do a lot of due diligence work, on the land and kind of go through our feasibility studies. As far as a strict timeline right now, I can't provide one because I don't know. But I could, I'll check, obviously, depending on how tonight goes and how we move forward with the city of Worcester, we'll obviously start building a timeline based on those factors.
Okay. Then the last question I have is for you, Andrew, and that is, it talks about side separation between buildings. The minimum is stated at 20 feet. They're asking or requesting 15 feet. And I just want to make sure that's adequate for the fire department. So has the fire department reviewed that? Has they accepted that, or where does that stand from a city review?
They have not done a full review on the application. I don't believe that's an issue for the fire department. I know that building code standards will vary based on distance. So if it's very close, I think far closer than 15 feet, different materials or different measures need to be taken. But I don't believe there's a 15-foot poses any building or fire issues. That's just more of a zoning regulation. And if I could also comment on the changes, the plan development section of our code also has prescriptions for what happens if you want to change the plan. If it's a major change, it has to go back to city council. If it's kind of a moderate change, it goes back to planning commission. If it's more minor, then it can be administratively approved. So it kind of goes through the different ways that you can make changes and the review measures that need to be taken.
Okay, thank you. Commission members, other questions that you may have, please.
Chuck, I have a question, and that was really whether the firm has done plan developments in other locations prior to this.
Mike, not recently. I could say, Bill Lemon's been doing this for over 50 years. I'm sure in his history has. We do an assortment of different types of multifamily developments. So we have experience with all the different types of units or residential units that you see on the plan.
Thank you.
Other questions, please. Okay, hearing none, let's go ahead and open up the public hearing. What I'd like to do is to acknowledge the documents that have been previously submitted and therefore had the opportunity of review by the commission. The first series was received on March the 29th. The first one is from Ann and Richard O'Planick, dated March the 28th. We also have one from Val and Dorothea Williams, dated March the 29th. Also on the 29th, one from Richard and Robin Spade. This was by an email. And also another one on March the 29th of Don Noble of the Wayne Economic Development Council. Then on March 30th, we received two documents. One was dated March the 29th, Steve and Rindy Morphew. And on March the 30th, Todd, Kenneth Duper, and Barbara Fisher. That was an email form. Yesterday, we received three additional ones. One was dated March the 30th from John and Malia. We also received one dated March the 31st of Dennis and Ellen Hammond. This was an email form. And lastly, on that date, March 31st was the date, Samira Zimmerly from the Worcester Area Chamber of Commerce. And then finally today, we also received an email addendum dated today's date from Dennis and Ellen Hammond. So that information has been conveyed. It has gone to all the Planning Commission members. So we don't need to recover that because that's already there. So we'll open things up for the public hearing. In an ideal perspective, what we'd like you to do is to be precise. I don't know how many people are attending and how many people want to speak, but we obviously would like to be concise and ideally speak once. So we'll see how that goes, but the forum is open. So any comments that we have from the public, please.
I'll be glad to start.
Good evening.
Hi, I'm Ann O'Planick, and we have a home at 4700 Mel Lane. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're coming through fine.
Okay, good. Mr. Dutton had mentioned that the former planned developments that are in Worcester. There's several of them. Do any of them have the R3 variants of zoning? It sounded to me like they were all either R1 or R2 combinations. Do we have any R3s, and are any of them rental?
And to respond, 3 of them have attached single family, which is proposed here, not detached single family or multifamily housing. I'm not sure about the condo versus rental for each one of them. They were done some time ago, but all one of them would have non-detached single family homes.
I know, but are any of them R3 or R3 variants?
I'm not sure what you mean by that. They contain uses only allowed in the R3. Yes.
Yes, because it is a planned development. So they are apartments.
I believe some are condos and some are apartments. I didn't go into that much detail. Our
Okay.
code doesn't really distinguish between ownership and rental. It determines by type of use: detached residential, which is a detached single family home; attached single family, which is kind of what's proposed here for the majority, and then
So
multifamily is more traditional kind
and
of.
is the majority of the proposed development a rental development then, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
All right. And I'd like to ask the commission members, and looking at the map that I sent them, because we have really 2 issues that you're deciding on this evening, and I'd like to comment on first the zoning issue, and then later on the development plan itself. So in looking at that map, as you can see, it varies quite a bit from what's the surrounding land is. It's almost completely surrounded by R1. The argument of the city is to say that it is compatible with a plan development, which is the majority of this plan development is probably what would fall into the R3 category. So I would like to know what your thoughts are as in looking at something, because as a planning and zoning commission, you were looking at this issue singularly first, and then the plan secondarily. And I'd like to know, as far as compatibility and the zoning, the construction of the comprehensive plan and the construction of the zoning and planning documents in the comprehensive plan, how this is perceived as being compatible, the zoning of this development with the surrounding neighborhood, which is single family homes, R1.
And this is Chuck. I can't speak to the rest of the members, but at least I'll take the first crack at it. That is, as you know, we are required to follow the guidelines in the planning and zoning code as far as
Yes.
our decision. So that's we need to make a judgment based on that criteria. So that's the crux of what we use to do that. The other thing is, obviously, a couple months ago, I believe it was in January when this was first presented. It had no detached buildings at all. That raised some hair as far as some of the other neighbors and so forth. So they came back and obviously tried to modify that in favor of having some detached homes around the perimeter of other residential areas. So at least it's in the right direction from that perspective. Other members, go ahead.
We appreciate that. If you'll notice on your map, you're going to see that it rounds the corner on the north end by Smithville Western, but the majority of those neighbors up there are going to be having not single family homes in their backyards, but either the townhomes or I don't even know what the last ones are there approaching Melrose Lane. So that's a start. We appreciate that. But the compatibility issue with a high density plan development versus an R1 development, which this will be placed, as you see on that map, smack dab in the middle of it. Is this the plan of the city of Worcester to change zoning that has been in effect since 1989 in R1 districts to high-density rental properties? Is this going to be the city's modus operandi from now on to invade R1 properties and place higher density rental homes on empty territory? And does this set a precedent for what any developer can now do within the city when they're in an R1 neighborhood, which is, as you can see by your city code, which you know very well, is to be for single family residences and meeting all the very stringent requirements of an R1 development?
Yeah, once again, in short, I'll just say that all things need to be considered. And again, each application is unique, and that's what we need to do. So are there other thoughts either from the city or the commission that you'd like to respond to, Ann, please?
I'd like to, Chuck, if that would be possible. Bob Brenneman.
Yep.
All right. First off, thank you, commission members, and to members of the public for joining tonight. I know this is a difficult issue to consider, but it really is something that's truly important to our city. And Ann brought up a point that this area came in back when it was forced in because it needed sewerage. The Ohio EPA was forcing the Madisonburg area to get its sewer, and the city came forward and annexed it in. At the time, there was a majority or very much farmland involved, and so it came in the lowest zoning district, which is an R1 district, or it could have possibly even been an ag district back then. I'm not sure without looking back. But really, the commission is tasked with weighing what is in the interest of the property owners that own property out there, but also in the interest of the city and what we need to continue moving forward as a city. The Mel Lane people, I know, are concerned. They are an R1 district, and it is developed as single family homes, and it's pretty much fully developed. I think there might be a few single family lots in there, but for the most part, it's a developed neighborhood. The developer is looking at creating homes that will rent or sell. And I think that the jury is still out which direction they may end up going on that. At this point, they are saying rent. But I know we had a conversation with Bill Lemon here a week ago, and he said that he's interested in seeing how that goes and might consider selling those single family homes on the property. I do appreciate Lemon Development going back to the drawing board and realizing that the neighbors do have single family homes to the east and to the north. And in doing so, he put single family homes abutting those properties. And it truly was because of a conversation that came out of a planning commission meeting. But we as a city really need housing units. Our industries are telling us, and have been for some time now, that we need more housing. It's been difficult to get people to come forward to build housing because of uncertainties and costs and all of those things. But Lemon Development have a history in our town. They did the Danbury development at the bottom of Portage, and it has been a very good development as far as what we are seeing as a city. We have no issues or problems with them on a basis at all. So we do appreciate the quality of development they bring with them. But we really need the rental type units to help the workforce development of our town. And I know a number of members of the business community are watching this meeting this evening, may weigh in on this meeting about how that is a true need. And I'll finish up with this. This is sort of the tip of a bigger possibility, and we hope that this can move forward, because I think it means a lot of other possibilities in other parts of our city for more housing to develop, a whole gambit of housing from rentals to ownership to multifamily to single family to senior housing development. So this is really sort of litmus test, so to speak, because I think a lot of people are watching to see, is this going to happen? And if so, I think that the cork will come out and other developments will happen. So I will finish with that. Thank you, commission members, for your time and volunteer efforts here. We truly appreciate it. And thank you, community, for weighing in and being a part of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I'd like to clarify the historical story that was just told. It is when the EPA came into Madisonburg and told all homeowners, whether you had a new home or not, they had to put in a new septic system. We were then given the mandate of putting in a grinder pump system. And there were many of us that said, that's not a very good system to last a long time. Isn't there something that can be much more use to us as homeowners? And there was a small group of people, myself included, who said, why don't we try to get enough signatures and petition that we can annex into the city of Worcester? So that's a little bit of the history. We had already been told what kind of septic system we were going to be put in by the EPA. It was our choice as Madisonburg residents then to petition the city for what we felt and still feel was a much better system of providing septic problems, answers to the septic issues of some of the residents up there. And the question is to the mayor then, if any kind of development can invade an R1 space, what is the meaning of an R1 designation?
Mr. Chair, would you like me to respond to that?
Sure, thank you.
Okay. The purpose of a planning commission and a planning staff is to try to weigh what the true needs are versus what is in actuality. In actuality, you have a R5 mobile home park due west of this property. On the east side, you have an R1 single family residential. And on the north side, you have a R1 single family residential. On the south side, you have open fields. And so they are R1, I believe, for a bit of a distance, but then you go into the county and there's no zone at all. And on the other side of Mel Lane to the east is the county, and there's no zoning at all. So for Mel Lane, technically, a development could pop up on the eastern side of that development, and you don't know what could go in there. It could be commercial, it could be industrial, it could be housing, residential, it could be single family residential, or it could be high density residential. So the purpose that the Planning Commission serves is to try to weigh those things. Right now, and I was on Planning Commission, I sat in your seats and I was faced with these same kind of questions. You have an R1 to the east, you have an R5 to the west. The space in between, you try to buffer from one to the other. One's high density, the other's low density. So a mixed density use, such as an R3 or a planned development like it's being presented tonight, is good planning as far as I'm concerned. That is what we strive to do, is to blend things from one district to another. So that's my answer on the question asked. Thank you.
And anything further, or do we have our next comment, please?
Mr. Chair. Jonathan Millay here, speaking from the City of Worcester Economic Development. I shared a memo earlier this week, as you mentioned, so I won't go into that ad nauseum, but I did want to just highlight a couple points which Mr. Imaki had shared earlier with regard to the proposed rents. Those are very much in line with what we are seeing for newer style apartment in our city today, where those ranges of rents currently have waiting lists in place. And not to belabor the points that we made in the memo, but what we had talked about in that was the overall community need for housing from both the community development perspective in terms of trying to further accessibility to housing, and then the economic side of it, which is to help encourage companies to be able to have their workforce move to the city. Apartment housing helps to get people to a community, and then for sale housing helps to keep them here. So these things are all elements of housing are things that are necessary as we look at our long-term strategy for sustainability in our community, both economically and again from the community development side of it. One thing I'd be remiss, I just would like to highlight one very unique opportunity with this particular development is the fact that going through PD and keeping this development as a private development with private infrastructure uniquely allows this development to have emergency access only to Mel Lane, which essentially is Mr. Dutton shared in the drawing, that is gated emergency access. So with a gate there that can only be accessed with a key that our emergency vehicles carry. We have a couple of other locations like that in the city. It's a really great opportunity to be able to solve a question that we've had, particularly with Mel Lane, where we've had concerns about what would happen under a previous proposal if we had a typical residential subdivision street. Those, in order to meet city standards and the realities of how those are developed, almost always those will be public roads, and public roads would require that through access. So this is a really great opportunity to be able to solve a housing need, to be able to have a more harmonious land use with adjacent properties, being that we have single family unattached housing to the east and to the west, but also the very, very unique opportunity of being able to retain emergency access gates that prevent through traffic from going on to Mel Lane. That's just something that we would not have been able to envision with a typical subdivision. So from a community development standpoint, we're very thrilled that the developer has taken that under consideration, and if approved, would commit to following through with that. Lastly, speaking about the overall economic health of the community and the need for housing and workforce, this is a conversation that has been had in this community and growing in intensity over the last few years. We do have, I can't get into specifics, but with our role, we visit with businesses and communities who are looking at expansions. I can say, unfortunately, the city of Worcester has lost genuine investment and has lost jobs as a result of companies needing to expand in other neighboring communities where the workforce and housing situation are better than our situation here in Worcester. So housing, the need for it is very dire if we're going to be able to continue to support and sustain innovations in our economy and to welcome the very large number of workers who are now commuting, in some cases, considerable distances to our Worcester jobs. To that end, I'd like to make a quick introduction to some other guests that we have this evening. We have Mr. Don Noble, who is the chair of our Wayne Economic Development Council. That is our business leadership group for the city and all the county. It's a nonprofit that is primarily funded through contributions from private sector businesses. And that actually makes it a really unique economic development organization, as most of those tend to be primarily government funded. And then also joining Mr. Noble is Andrew Dix, who is the immediate past chair of that organization. And also joining us, listening in tonight, is Ms. Melissa Pierce, who is the CEO leader of the Community Action Wayne Medina organization, which does a tremendous amount of good in helping to provide options for security, both financially, health, and education and housing through all the work that Community Action Wayne Medina does, especially focusing on those who are less fortunate in our community. Additionally, we have Mr. Tom Marting from Gojo Industries, one of our largest employers. And then additionally, we have Mr. Tim Swift and David Spar, who are both of Worcester Brush Company. As you noticed in the newspaper recently, the Worcester Brush Company just announced their largest expansion ever in the city of Worcester. And they will be looking to fill new spots as they build out a 600,000 or 400 to 600,000 square foot facility building at the Worcester Innovation Park. That will be Worcester's third largest building by any measure by footprint as that moves forward. But there are folks that will be needed to help fill those positions for all the work that needs to be done there. Additionally, we have Mr. Kevin Weldy, who is the CEO of Tech4, another firm that produces goods that go throughout the global economy and whose work here in Worcester has created many opportunities for Worcester families and individuals launching careers. And then additionally, I'd be remiss in not mentioning Mr. Scott Boyes, the CFO of the Worcester Community Hospital, one of Worcester's largest employers, and also a top 100 hospital to make mention of the great success that our health organization has accomplished 6 years in a row now. But again, reliant on being able to have a workforce that has the ability to locate closer to places of work and the patients that they serve. So I'll leave it to them if they would like to weigh in, but we did just want to acknowledge members of our business community and those that are engaged with housing. And I'll leave my comments there. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jonathan, for sharing. Other comments, please?
This is Tim Swift speaking with the Worcester Brush Company, and I'm joined in the room by David Spar. And David Spar and I have just completed an exhaustive study in surrounding areas to consider an expansion for our company. And ultimately, we have decided, as Jonathan just said, to expand here in Worcester. A major piece of development, certainly the largest in our 170-year history. And throughout that study, one of the things that we brought to the city, and thank you to the mayor and Jonathan and Joel and those guys for working very tightly with us here. And one of the deficits we saw was workforce development, and we think that what goes hand in hand with that is housing. And so we brought that to their attention, and while we think that some of the other areas we looked at are ahead of Worcester in this regard, we have put our faith in the city that these are the kind of things they're going to bring forth to help us fill our building with employees as needed. And I think that probably the best thing we could say is that we'll leave it up to others to decide if this is the right project at the right time in the right place. But generally speaking, we believe that Worcester is definitely in need of housing to support manufacturing jobs in our city.
Thank you, sir.
This is Melissa Pierce, representing Community Action Wayne Medina on 905 Pittsburgh Avenue. We focus on assisting under-resourced families through education and self-sufficiency and resources leading to long-term solutions. In our 2020 Community Needs Survey, affordable housing was shown to be the #1 need in our community. The additional housing inventory represented by the proposed Melrose housing development will free up existing housing stock through transition of families into this new development. Research shows that when families have stable, decent, and accessible homes that they can afford, they're better able to find employment, achieve economic mobility, perform better in school, and maintain improved health, preserving access to affordable housing in areas of opportunity helps families climb the economic ladder, leading to greater economic development and bolstering economic productivity and job creation. So pretty much, great domino effect there. By investing in resources for families and seniors that they need to thrive, it's really a win-win equation. Research shows that investing in increasing access to affordable housing is the most cost-effective strategy for reducing childhood poverty. So the ripple effect of expanding housing in this community really fortifies stability in all these sectors. And at Community Action, we like to say that when our under-resourced neighbors thrive, the whole community benefits. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa.
Yep. My name is Tom Marting. I'm the Director of Facilities, Environmental Health and Safety for Gojo. We're at 1147 Akron Road. I believe that the folks in town call us the old Rubbermaid plant, but we call ourselves the new Gojo plant. We have been growing quite a bit since we first acquired the property in 2015. I was the first person in the door, and now we're close to 700 employees on site. This past year has been a very challenging year for us. We've been, as you've probably seen in the media, growing as a result of the pandemic and what we see as the world after the pandemic. We have invested quite a bit of our capital into the Worcester facility, and one of the larger challenges with us growing is the labor force availability and the housing market being constraints as we try and fill those positions. If you go online to gojo.com and look at our open positions, we have over 25 open positions in Worcester, and that number is always open because we have such a challenge with our workforce availability. And we really are here to speak in favor of this this project. We think this is the kind of housing that we need to grow, and you heard others speak to this point. So we'll just echo that position. That as we grow, we need to have that housing in the community grow with us, and this will be the kind of project that we would need to see come to light to help us in our growth. So, thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Hi, I'm Merlin Peterson, 4491 Mel Lane. I wanted to take a slight issue with what the mayor said, that the proposed division will be surrounded by an R5 on the western side. That's true, but that's on the western side of Melrose. There's houses and a church on the east side of Melrose, which forms the other border of this development. So the development would be completely surrounded by R1 properties. We need development. There's no denying that. Listening to industry, yes, we need it. But we are more than happy on Mel Lane in particular to welcome individual homes, but not the rentals. That would be just too much density. So we ask you to consider that and maintain a lower density with single homes, and hopefully things will work well. Thank you.
Thanks, Martin.
I'd like to speak. This is Kevin Weldy. I'm the President and Managing Director of Tech 4 here in Worcester, Ohio, 3690 Long Road, and I affirm to tell the truth. We've been asking, or I've been asking for help in this situation for quite some time. We are moving jobs out of this community because we can't find people to work in this community. Okay, we have decisions to make. We're also in the middle of an expansion potential in the very near future. We ran, for the most part, 15 to 20 people short in our facility for the past probably 2 years now. We are not the lowest paid person in factories, if you will, in the community. We're actually mid to upper. So it's not like we're not paying what we need to attract. They're simply not people. If you look at the unemployment rate here in the normal cycle, even pre-COVID, you're down below 3%. That's very challenging. In this town, there's probably about 60% of our people actually commute to work every day. So if they find a job down the street and don't commute 30, 45 minutes, they go down the street. So the stability of our workforce is at risk all the time. On top of that, we at Tech 4 have had 2 apartments for 5+ years now because they're simply not available in this community. So in other words, I have 2 apartments I rent all the time, have done so for 5 years, and will not let the lease up because if I do, I won't find another. So when I have people come into town, they have places to stay, or I've got people that I hire, at least I have a place to put them for the first 3 to 6 months so they can settle. So all I'm asking, and I think when people, if you look at the people that want to move here, that 60% that do commute, I hope that we find solutions for that because we really need to grow this community and the businesses in the community need to grow with it.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
And this is Scott Boys, already introduced by Jonathan. Thank you. I live at 1763 Morgan Street. I also am on the WDC board and was a past chair, and I can attest, besides Mr. Weldy giving me periodic pep talks when I was chair, another major company who's not on this call tonight also had indicated an unwillingness to consider future growth because of our tight job market. I will also say that the hospital, 1/3 of our workforce commutes from outside the county, and the housing stock is really important, really at all pricing levels. But certainly we have the wage range that could use this type of housing also. So I'm in support of this. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Other comments, please.
I would like to speak on this issue because I don't think there's a person on Mel Lane or Smithville Western who does not completely agree with every professional speaker, business owner, corporate leader that Worcester needs housing. We all agree. I agree 100%. And I'm sure we all see the need. We have seen it personally in many of our lives that Worcester needs more housing. But that's not the question here. The question that's before a planning commission is simply, is this changing of zoning designation appropriate for this already pre-zoned R1 area? I think we're conflating 2 issues, and that is the need for housing versus, is this an appropriate change of an R1 neighborhood, completely changing the scope of what a neighborhood that's been established for 40 to 50 years into something that is completely different, a rental and high density neighborhood placed in the middle of an established R1 neighborhood that has no compatibility at all with the Worcester Comprehensive Plan. So I'm wondering why we're varying so far away from what Worcester has always held, and especially with the planning and zoning, is keeping designated areas and their zoning and holding that sacrosanct. In this case, because there is a housing crisis, we get it, we understand it, we know, and I feel for every business that are these 2 questions being conflated with each other, the need for housing and the zoning change designation. And as Mr. Peterson pointed out, this development should not be, our development, our R1 neighborhood is completely surrounding the parcel that's in question, except for about 100 feet that's across the street, which is the Melrose Mobile Home Park. And to the south, it is simply agriculture. So it is a move into an R1 neighborhood. And I hope that you look at it as such and not try to, as the dialogue has gone this evening, try to make us a merger between R1 and R5. This is inside an R1 neighborhood.
Thank you, Ann.
You're welcome.
Other thoughts, please?
Mr. Chairman, Don Noble, representing Wayne Economic Development Council, current chair.
You have the floor, Don.
Okay. I believe the committee has my housing position statement from the WDC. You've heard from several of our members already. We represent companies large and small, organizations, and you've heard from several large ones already. Again, our position is Worcester needs housing. What that looks like, that's up to the commission. But again, we strongly encourage the commission to look at housing opportunities like this and make the correct decision, whatever that is. We need housing, and you've heard that from several of our members already. So there's positive and negatives and everything, I understand, but again, representing our members from the WDC, we've heard quite loud and clear that we need housing. Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
Hi, this is Carl Emler. I live at 2685 East Smithville Western Road, and I believe I'll speak the truth of what I know. My question is, we went through this planning scenario 2 months ago, and one of the things that was brought out at the time was the mean cost of each one of the units, or what the renters would be basically forking over to live in this area. What is the mean cost for this particular change, which to me is a shell game, but this particular change for the housing that you propose?
You're asking for the construction cost or the monthly rental cost?
Well, the monthly rental cost or the monthly ownership, or however it's going to be done. I don't know.
Carl, thank you for the question. As I said earlier, the rents will range from the units from $1,050 to $2,000 per month for rent.
For the rental pieces?
Yes, sir.
Is that which type of unit? House, townhouse, or the small apartments?
It will range between, again, what the final plan is and, everything that's decided, but the ranges will be between $1,050 a month to $2,000 a month.
And my other question I have is what I brought up the last time: who's going to be the owner of this property? Is it going to be you, or is it going to be the city and the city's responsibility? Is that still the same as it was 2 months ago?
The management company will be Brookwood Management, which is our sister company. We share ownership with them. So they'll be the managing company.
Okay, so there'll be a management company and they will take care of any of the renters?
That's correct.
And anything that goes on within the facility?
That's correct.
So fire safety of the city of Worcester, have they agreed to this, or have they not even looked at this?
And I'll respond to that. At this phase, we're in a preliminary development plan. With this plan development, it has not been completely evaluated by our fire or engineering or any other divisions at this point. It's not that step in the process yet.
So tonight you want to make a decision on this property, but your facilities people haven't even bowed into it or reviewed it.
We're not at that step in the process yet.
So we're buying a pig in a poke, or what are we doing?
Mr. Armbrust. Mr. Armbrust, go ahead.
Joe, go ahead. Take the floor, please.
I just wanted to mention, sort of get us back to the specific things being looked at for this particular development. all of our design standards and our zoning guidelines were generated based on what is required for engineering, for public safety, for fire. So those things are already baked into this whole process. So those things are, yes, we always have a review by those at some point in the process, for the final details. But what is laid out before you is not in contrast to what is considered safe and what is typically laid out for fire safety as far as, road radiuses and all those kind of things. So no, it's not a pig in a poke. It is laid out like a typical, that's what's great about the PD is so much is done ahead of time, which typically is not done ahead of time on a typical development. So in this case, you get to see all of those details up front, which typically aren't done, including a lot of things that were brought up even in 2019 by several of the same people that are here when a single family development was proposed. There were several concerns brought up by the neighbors. Primarily, they were related to stormwater runoff, safety issues, dealing with traffic and those kinds of things. And so at that time, there was resistance to the R1 development at that time. But I will say that those issues, are completely addressed. Stormwater runoff, 95% of this property runs away from Mel Lane. So, even if there was no such thing as stormwater management, almost all the property drains away from Mel Lane. But we also have stormwater management requirements that make sure all of that stormwater has to be managed and contained and then discharged appropriately on site. Because of the PD, we required them to do a traffic study, which our engineering has reviewed, which was already mentioned, doesn't decrease the level of service, doesn't require turn lanes, those kinds of things. So that's good information to have up front that you already have. As Jonathan mentioned, because the roads stay private, we can limit the access to the west of the development, so you will not have through traffic onto Mel Lane. That will be a fire access only. That'll be a gate that only our fire department will have access to. And we have multiple ones of those around town. So that's something that our safety forces are very, very used to dealing with. And the one other thing that was not mentioned, but was a concern mentioned previously, was the ongoing maintenance and upkeep of that stub street off of Mel Lane. And so if this is approved tonight and approved by City Council, we are committed as a city to taking over the ongoing maintenance and upkeep of that stub street, and which would be, maintaining the pavement and snow plowing and salting and those kind of things, because I know that was brought up as a concern as well. So that's another thing that would be gained should this be approved.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joel. Other comments, please?
I have some questions for Joel, please, Mr. Montgomery. So part of this plan development is presented as an R1, the single family homes. Are the streets in this development going to be built to the R1 specifications of the city? Are they going to have curbs and gutters, sidewalks? Are they going to be, I think it's 27 feet wide or 25?
They do not need to be, because it's going to stay private, and so they will be built to standards that are needed for typical safety, traffic, and those kind of things. But they are built to be private, so they don't need to be the full type of street.
So they're not built to the standards that an R1 development would be built as.
I'm not anticipating that they will be.
And how is the stormwater going to be captured if there's no curb and gutter system?
Like many other streets that are not improved, even public streets that are not improved. And that's not something that's done at this point in the process. But we have stormwater management like every other development that has to be reviewed and approved by engineering. And those standards are already published. And they are approved by the Ohio EPA, so that will happen like every other development.
So according to your map that you presented in the packet, my backyard is at least 2 to 4 feet below the elevation of this development. What am I to expect when there's nothing trapping the water and there's so much more than the original farm field for capturing the water?
94
What's the plan
to
for?
94 to 95% of the entire site drains away from Mel Lane. There's some small areas, like you said, that drain there. There are some areas of Mel Lane that drain onto this property. That will be done at that point in the process, like every other development, and it'll be reviewed by engineering, and they have to contain that on their site.
Okay,
If
that's a good answer.
I could jump in here. If I could jump in, I know this is a preliminary development plan, but it says right on it, proposed asphalt pavement with concrete curb and gutter. And it is on all of the streets through this development. So that's what they're showing on their plan at this point in time. Even though I agree with Joel, it's a private development. They don't have to meet the city standards, nor does the city have to come to their rescue and fix the place up if it doesn't hold true to the standards they're building it to.
Thank you, Mayor. This is Tony Perez, President of Lemon Development, 8230 Pittsburgh Avenue, North Canton, Ohio. Yeah, we have our civil engineer on as well. You know, we have already gone through a pretty long process to get us to kind of this transition piece, but we still have not had, you know, everything into engineering to review. The city will deny or approve any of our engineering drawings moving forward here. They're going to tell us what needs to be done moving forward. But this will all be private, maintained roads by us.
Could I tie in here? This is Roger Kovalarczyk, city engineer.
Feel free, Roger.
Okay, yeah, as far as collecting stormwater, whether there's curbs or ditches, the stormwater has to be collected and detained before it exits the site. That's a standard in our site development manual. Now, going back to the drainage, like Joel said, there's 95% of the area presently that drains to the west. The part that drains towards Mel Lane is like just over 1% of that area. But as far as the roads go, it has to have storm sewers that go to a detention or retention basin to be detained before it exits the site. So that's it. Any questions about that? I'd be free to answer those. Thank you.
Thanks, Roger.
I have another question for Mr. Mackey concerning the initial statement he made about the options that may occur with this development. We were talking about the single family home type structures that will border the Mel Lane and Smithville Western properties. And you made a comment that nothing is, if I have this correct, the plan may change. Am I correct in hearing that you may change the plan that we are already seeing in this mapping?
Carl, what I was talking about earlier was that nothing's finalized yet. I believe what you heard was my response to Mr. Armbruster, and he was talking specifically about the 3-story, 3-unit townhomes. And then as Andrew had outlined earlier, if we get the approval, we move forward. If there's any type of changes made, it depends on the type of changes, you will get the corresponding approval, whether it be from the planning commission, the city, or whomever. So again, no changes will be made without going through the proper, if changes are made, without going through the proper steps.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Carl.
I have a question about one of the major changes of the plan from the last one we saw, and that concerns the majority of the homes, which are, I think, like strip apartments. It's quite a deviation from what you had last time. Do they not have garages?
Actually, the 8 units were a part of our design in January as well. All the units in this development, aside from the 8 units, will have attached garages. And the villa type, so you have the duplex villas, the 4-unit villas, The single-family homes, obviously, which make up the bulk of the development, all have attached garages. The 8-unit ones will have a garage space next to them.
So they're going to have to walk from that carport all the way down those sidewalks into their clusters of 8-unit apartments, correct? So they are not attached garages to their apartment. And are all these new apartments, do they have, the way you've clustered them together, it looks like they only have one side that's going to have windows. The other the other 3 sides are going to be shared walls with other apartments?
Yeah, the 8-unit single-story apartments.
Yes. So you're only going to have one of the 4 sides of these homes having windows. And then is this the area where you've also asked for a decrease in the building separation going from 20 feet to 15 feet?
On some portions of it? Yes.
These buildings facing each other in these clusters of 8s.
The 8-unit villa apartments, yes, some of them are facing each other.
So they're going to have 15 feet between them, and those are the only sides that they're going to have their windows on. So within 15 feet, there'll be another building. Is there any place else in this development where you're going to have the reduced, even the R3 reduced building distance, which used to be 20 feet? Now you're asking for a variance. Where else are the buildings going to be 15 feet apart from each other?
And I don't believe we're asking for a variance. Part of the PD is you can kind of set some of the code. So make sure we're doing that. But yeah, I mean, again, it's not finalized, but what we see as part of the site plan is what we've laid out so far.
And you've had to ask a variance on the open space as well, because you can't meet the 30% requirement for open space. So you've had to decrease some of the boundary setback because of that and tabulate into the formula. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're not asking for variances. It's, you know, as part of the PD, this is why we're going this route, which Andrew laid out earlier. So yeah, there's no requests for variances.
As far as density, and maybe this goes to one of the city planners, what would allow a higher density, a PD development or an R3?
And I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of what a planned development is, and I tried to go over it. But basically, you have a unique situation where you create your own set of rules based on a default zoning district. So there are no variances. These exceptions or modifications are inherent to a planned development. If you didn't have these, you wouldn't ask for a planned development. This is what all of them contain. I would say this is, I don't recall what the exact density is, but I believe it's slightly less dense than what was proposed the last time. So it would be a little less dense than the previously proposed R3 development.
So if you, well, I'm looking at the formula according to your city planning books. The PD formulary is extremely high density if you want to tabulate it the way the books say.
Again, we're approving the specific plan. We're not approving what's in that chart. So with the plan development, you approve the preliminary plan, which is what we're going through right now. And I'll note we have 24 areas of the city.
Andrew has the floor. Go ahead, Andrew.
We have 24 areas of the city zoned R3 or R4, and 20 of them are adjacent to single-family residential zoning districts. So it's not at all out of the character of the city to have an R3 and R4 or a planned development with attached single-family or multifamily adjacent to single-family. It would be impossible to lay out a city where you're that isolated. So I don't even see this as a transition. In my opinion, this is common in the city. This is common in a lot of areas. And I don't find, frankly, a higher end rental development to be incompatible with single family homes around it. And that's my opinion.
I hate to interrupt, and I apologize, Andrew, and I apologize, Mr. Planek. I would just like to take a moment to remind the commission that this is a public hearing and not a discussion. We have sort of devolved into discussion. I still have YouTube comments from people who were not able to attend over Zoom. And I would just, again, remind the commission that we're hearing testimony. not really discussing the issues tonight at this meeting.
So John, why don't you go ahead and list any comments that you might have visibility to, please?
I will. So I do have a comment. I have some comments from two individuals. One is from Matt Delapropes. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Mr. Delapropes. What is the point of zoning if it can be changed so easily? I will take that question, and then if the commission wants to add to that, they can, obviously. I will just say that, Mr. Delapropes, I do not think that zoning changes are easy. If you would ever like to sit down with me, I can go with you over the criteria with you. You'll hear them tonight. If you notice, this will go through 2 public hearings, one through planning and one through council. It is quite a bit of a project to get through for any applicant. So my answer to that, unless the commission has anything to add, is that the process is not easy. Then I guess moving on, we have Val Williams, and Val would like to address the traffic plan at Melrose. He says it seems inadequate without any changes with the industrial park and major growth on Route 83, Meyer, etc., and all the traffic that will head west off of Route 585. And he also says, comment, access only to Mel Lane could be achieved without or with current R1 zoning. So I don't know if the applicant has a response to that.
As far as the traffic study, Palmer Engineers is qualified to perform surveying and engineering design services for the Ohio Department of Transportation. They are who provided the report to us. And I believe the city of Worcester had a chance to look at the report and I think are in support of their findings. So that's all I'll have to say about that, John.
Okay. The next comment again is from Val Williams. And Mr. Williams says, manufacturing jobs can support up to $2,000 a month or $24,000 a year. I'm not sure if that is a question or a comment, but I guess I'm assuming what he's getting at is whether or not these would be affordable to people working manufacturing jobs. I think Mr. Millay hasn't answered that.
Hi, good evening again. At $24,000, these would not be affordable. That would equate to roughly $12 an hour. It's $17 an hour for one individual. They would be approximately affordable. And we do see among some of our industries that for being able to start off, we do see some of our businesses starting within that range between 16 and 19 to start without skilled experience. So for companies in that range, without having to have anything down, depending upon what would be a larger deposit, but generally in Ohio, they're restricted to 1 month's rent without provision of interest. That would generally be affordable. So I would say for most of the industries that we've heard from this evening, and they can correct me if I'm wrong, but this would fall within that range. Additionally, these are also quite a few of these, I would say the majority, and Mr. Mackey can also shed some more light on this. But these are 2 units, or I'm sorry, 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms. So if you had potentially 2 income earners, that would be much more attainable, even if you were below that starting wage of 17 an hour. And again, as we shared, when we took a look at housing availability in our area, we are finding at these price ranges that Mr. Mackey mentioned, apartments are only available via wait list. Meaning we have to wait for other individuals who are currently renting to decide to move on before that apartment becomes available to them.
And to play off of that, the next comment is from Val Williams. And he says, this is just a comment that I will share with the commission, but he says, yes, we agree to the need for housing. However, why cram high density housing into one piece of land? shouldn't try to resolve a mammoth housing need in one concentrated area. And also we have another comment then from Matt Delaprops. And I think this one has a question attached, and it says, owner occupied homes, R1, should be encouraged in our community to stay long-term, not overpaying renters. Do these businesses want short-term renters or long-term employees? I think that's more of a rhetorical question, so I don't know that there's really an answer for that. And then let's see. I have one last comment then again from Mr. Williams, and it's just a comment, and he says, on R1 resistance, we were not against housing development, but the use of a TIF and cutting through our neighborhood.
Okay, thank you, John.
You're welcome.
So trying to bring this thing to a close, any other new questions or comments in the public hearing, please?
And Chuck, I received an email from a resident to read to the commission as well.
Okay, sure.
It's also from Mr. Del Propost. My name is Matthew Del Propost, owner of 4676 Mel Lane, and swear to tell the truth. I ask that you do not rezone the property at 4677 Melrose Drive. The property is zoned R1 and should be left as such. There's a need for housing supported by facts and current data applicable to the immediate area, and I feel it should be developed with R1 properties like every abutting property. The parcel in question is completely surrounded by R1 properties, should be developed similar to those properties surrounding it. We bought our home because all surrounding R1 homes are owner occupied, making it a great safe place in our city to raise a family and hold its value. There are zone/designated areas for R3, R4, R5 planned development, etc. in our city, as well as there are zone/designated places for R1 like I currently live. Rezoning this parcel is a bad idea as it is not compatible with the immediate surrounding area. Furthermore, the northeast side of the parcel wanting to be developed holds a lot of water and stays wet constantly. This is consistent with the wetlands described on page 6 of the proposal, but isn't addressed. Every time it rains or snows, it overflows and floods out several properties to the east. So the entire property does not flow from east to west as stated on page 6 of the proposal. This has never been addressed in any proposal ever brought forth, and I feel the problem would be exacerbated by a development of this scale. So to illustrate, please keep the parcel in question R1 and address the property runoff to the east. Thank you for your time, consideration, and community service. And then he included a picture here. Share that there. I suppose that is probably the rear yard of his property.
Yes, it's called Lake Bonnie. It's our next door neighbors.
Okay, Andrew, do you have any other comments from visibility from your area?
No, I did not receive any other emails there.
Okay, John, last call for anything that you might have.
I have no further comments from YouTube.
Okay. And did you want to take one last swing?
Yeah, I do. I want to take a last swing. And I want to say I appreciate what you're all doing in Planning Commission. We met like this about 2 months ago. It was a great discussion between the property owners, some outside interests, and also you as a commission. And we understand that you are dealing with a problem that we are all dealing with. It's not just the Planning Commission's problem, it's the City of Worcester's problem. But this happens to be Maundy, Thursday. And I think of it as a special holy day, but especially a holy day where one of the disciples that sat with Jesus turned against him. When we came into the city 32 years ago, the city promised us, they covenanted with us that we were going to be protected as an R1 development. Even the mayor came to my house a year and a half ago and said that we were very lucky that we were protected. Tonight, we feel like that promise, that closeness, that being one of you, one of the city, our neighborhood is part of you. We feel it's in some ways betrayed because we were made a promise when we came in and we worked hard. I worked hard to get us to become part of the City of Worcester. And the City of Worcester returned that promise by saying, you know what, you are an R1 neighborhood. And your decision 2 months ago told us that we were an R1 neighborhood. And so I feel like this discussion, for some reason, has been swayed by not only the current events, but many of the kind speakers that came tonight speaking about our housing concerns. That is a concern. But the zoning designation change is what is on the table tonight. And our promise was from the city for all these years that you are protected. You are an R1 neighborhood. And we would hope that you would consider that by looking at the map, looking at our history there, looking at the comprehensive plan, but mostly looking at your criteria that you use and that you used 2 months ago to say we stand with you, and we stand with the fact that you have been a really good contributor to the city of Worcester as an R1 neighborhood. I'm not speaking as a private homeowner who's trying to protect my own home, because I know how much the city needs housing. And I know it's desperate, and I know these companies are desperate for housing, but we're not the solution. We are an R1 neighborhood. We're not the solution to providing space on 21 acres for 141 homes. So just thank you, and I hope you take that into consideration. And thank you so much for all you do and all the time you've taken to read our letters and to listen to our comments. God bless you.
Thank you, Ann. We'll wrap this up unless there's any final comments, please. Andrew, anything on your screen?
Mr. Armbruster, if I could say one final thing.
Sure.
I agree and disagree with what Anna Planick just said. Her neighborhood, no matter what is decided tonight, is going to remain an R1 neighborhood. That has not been requested to be changed. Mel Lane, Mellon Circle will continue to be a R1 neighborhood. Now, the other portion of land, which is owned by someone, that person decided that they wanted to develop their land, which is their right. There was no covenant unless someone made a offhand comment, because a covenant for the city of Worcester has to be a written document. And no one has ever shown any of us in the city administration a written document that says a covenant has been made. So I refute that. That is not true as far as my knowledge tells us. So the thing that we're asking of the Planning Commission tonight is not to change the zoning of Mel Lane. It's to change the zoning of the person who owns the property and wants to sell the property. It's been R1 there for 50 years and nothing has developed. So isn't it their right to have the property move into a new function? Yes, it is. So my final comment. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor, for clarifying that. I didn't mean a covenant as far as a legal term. I meant it as a promise, and as something that we as neighbors expected the city would honor. So thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, with that, it feels like the energy is decreasing on the public hearing. So let's go ahead and close that, please. And I will remind everyone that the zoning map amendment criteria in section 1105.03E3 of the Planning and Zoning Code is used for the basis for decision consideration. As the public hearing is closed, Andrew, any other comments you'd like to make relative to this project for the Planning Commission, please?
No, just a little additional about the review criteria. You have them all there in your packet, and for the plan development, there are some additional ones along with the typical rezoning criteria. So it's a little bit more extensive in this case.
Okay, thank you. Planning Commission members, any questions or comments that you may have, please? If not, may I hear a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, I'll proceed with a motion that we approve PC 2107, which is a change of zoning at 4977 Melrose Drive from R1 to a planned development PD as submitted. My recommendation includes the approval of the preliminary development plan that was submitted in the development text.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Grant, thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none. Kyle?
Yes.
Sheree?
Yes.
Grant?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Mark?
Based on the finding that this proposal is compatible with the comprehensive plan and the zoning code, I vote yes.
Thank you, and I vote yes as well. Motion passes. The last application we have this evening is PC 2104. Jonathan Malia requesting an approval recommendation from the Plan Commission to City Council for a zoning map amendment to assign a zoning of I2 General Industrial to properties on the North Gyers Chapel Road and Daisy Way with parcel numbers 51-00137.000, 51.00137.001, and finally 53-01011.000. Is there an applicant's representative present to outline the application? I assume that's Jonathan.
Hello again. Yes, very happy to meet once again. This particular proposal, we came to you previously and had requested support for I2 zoning of this property, and we had discussed the purposes behind that was to help facilitate economic development by establishing land for business expansion. And actually, we in the past couple of months since we've chatted about this, we have continued to receive significant interest from both companies locally. We still have with us this evening Mr. Swift and Mr. Spade from the Worcester Brush Company, who would be participating in this. The reason why we're back, however, is that we did have a slight issue when it came to notification. Part of our processes is to make sure that when we do these public hearings, that we work to ensure everybody has a notice and opportunity to attend. We unfortunately utilized some older data, and we missed one resident. So out of safe measure, we wanted to run through the process once more and bring it back to a public hearing so that we could be sure that we're incorporating all public comments that we possibly can with this really critical and important project for our community. So I've chatted about that earlier. If I am missing any details, or if you'd like further information, I'm available this evening to help answer any questions you have.
Thank you. So Planning Commission members, any questions for Jonathan, please? Hearing none, let's go ahead and open the public hearing, please. Any comments? Andrew, do you have visibility of anything?
I'm not seeing anything on YouTube. I haven't received any emails. And I just don't even know Jonathan's doing the talking for this application. The error was completely on my end and not Jonathan's. So that's the reason this is back before you.
Okay. We'll do the pregnant pause just a little bit longer to make sure there isn't anything that else would come up. Then we'll go from there.
We fully support the I2 zoning that is being proposed here for this industrial park.
Okay, thank you. Last call for any public comments, please.
And again, I'm not seeing any.
Okay, so hearing none, let's go ahead and close the public hearing portion. So again, Andrew, any other comments you have on this administrative piece?
Nope, nothing else.
Okay, commission members, any questions you may have? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please? Mark, do you want to make a motion this evening?
You're on mute, Mark.
Sure. Let me pull this together. I recommend approval or move approval of PC 2104, a request to change the zoning map to a zoning of I2 General Industrial to properties on North Gyers Chapel Road and Daisy Way with parcel numbers 51-00137.000, 51-00137.001, and 53-01011 upon annexation to the city of Worcester.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that.
Thank you, Mike. Any further discussion? Going down the list one more time. Kyle?
Yes.
Cherie?
Yes.
Grant?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
And I make it unanimous as well. Very good. A long meeting this evening, but glad everyone was hanging in here for us. Andrew, anything for the good of the order before we adjourn?
Nothing further. I just appreciate everyone taking the time, moving the meetings around and taking into account all the public comment for the applications here tonight.
Okay. Sri, do you want to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, please.
Okay, second.
Second.
Okay, Kyle, all in favor, say aye.
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 Surprisingly, motion passes.
Chuck?
Yes, sir.
I'll just note you shouldn't call on elderly members of the board after their bedtime to make motions.
So noted.
Thank
Okay, our
you
next
all
meeting is
for
going to be
your
on.
endurance. Thank
Our
you
next
all
meeting
for
will be
your
on May the
endurance
6th, and we'll go from there. Any final comments, please?
I don't know if we got talked over each other there, Chuck, but thank you all for your endurance and for your service to our city. I know these meetings hopefully are few in number where you go so long, but I do remember long planning commissions too. So I think you guys did a great job tonight, and we appreciate all of your consideration.
Thank you for your kind words. Okay, I think we're done. Over and out. Thanks very much.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.